Grand Rising. It's very early. um, my sleep is all weird. So hey, so check this out, guys. I've made mention of past careers. Like I've kind of had two different kinds of careers. One was in healthcare, human services, whatever, and then uh, like construction, maintenance, excavation. Um, But I was a non-licensed social worker, and at that time in Maine, I've said this before. At that time in Maine, uh, where I lived, as you were earning credits, you could practice. So that's what that meant. Um, so in that situation, I worked in, with different types of people and in different settings. I worked I worked as a house manager in a residential program. I worked in a lockdown facility working with sex offenders, um, boys, girls, trauma, you name it, the entire spectrum. Crisis, families in crisis, um, etc. On and on and on. Okay, and I did that for 13 years. Um, and one of the things, those environments could be extraordinarily stressful at times. Um, People, kids, parents, you name it, acting out. Uh, Violence was not uncommon. As counselors and as staff members, we did our very best to keep everybody safe, but that sometimes didn't happen. We were simply outnumbered. Um, but there were a few occasions, and I'm thinking of one in particular. This was in the sex offender unit that I was working on, and there was an incident on my days off, and we had all been documenting this one particular person who was having a particularly difficult time. Um, and at that time we would refer to it as one on one. They had a one on one staff. They were never out of eyesight or weren't supposed to be. Um, and this was in a uh, lockdown campus facility, just shy of jail. Um, and um, I came back to work Monday, whatever it was, and found out that this individual had committed suicide, and it was a big deal. It was a big deal, man. How did it happen? How could it have possibly happened? They had a one-on-one. They had a whatever, and where did we drop the ball? And as you can imagine, we were held by the state and the government. We were government licensed, and et cetera, et cetera. And we were held accountable for that death. And the whys and wherefores are not really where up. How did it actually happen? The person stepped away to go to the bathroom. And anyway, that's not why I'm talking about this. What I am going to talk about, it goes to a little bit about me. A little bit about me. And I recently had videos and shares removed, and the strike, or the reasoning that was given to me was medical misinformation. Okay, and from that incident in that sex offender unit, as a house manager, social, non-licensed clinical social worker, counselor, manager, etc. Because of that incident where they had taken their own life, it was a there was an influx of there was a lot of stuff going on, but there was an influx of trainings that followed to better identify behaviors, et cetera, et cetera. And that particular case went through the court system. And there is nothing worse than knowing what you know, and on a daily basis we had to do our notes. We had to do handwritten notes on each of our clients about what we saw, what we heard, what we sensed, what we felt, and it was no joke, man. We, I wish there was some of those apps back in the day where you could do, but everything had to be handwritten. And this particular case went into the court system, and there was court, and there was hearings, and there was this, and there was that, and it was a nightmare and painful for the family, and it was a nightmare and painful for us as the facility that this happened. And there was one particular person who was an employee who had been called up on the stand, and the attorney for the family and for the state collectively, the family and the state, ripped this employee apart because they were basing their responses, and much of their documentation was speculative. And after that situation, and so they're up on the stand, and the facility that I worked for lost the case hands down. It was, it's surprising that the facility didn't get shut down because of the size and mass of this lawsuit. So following that, we were all required to take documentation courses, observation courses, how to write objectively, how to express objectively what I saw, what I heard, facts, not feelings, facts. What was, the sky is blue. You know what I mean? What did you see? What did you hear? What did you experience? And what I'm getting at is having these strikes against me made me think about something, because the way that I approach my shares is much in that same way. What did I see? What did I hear? What did I experience? What was said? And while each of our own experiences is relative to our experience and how we perceive things, there are some things that are undeniable. The sky is blue. You know what I mean? So I suppose what I'm getting at is when I do when I do offer a share, I see where that kind of mindset from those trainings, and I know other social workers, people who have done the same job as me, can I'm sure can probably relate. The worst thing that could ever possibly happen to you, in theory, is that something happens and you yourself as a social worker get called up onto the stand in front of the judge or the magistrate oh, what are you? Or you're a PhD psychologist, and they rip you apart. And anything that could be positive, productive, cohesive, in getting to the truth and justice, you are completely blown out of the water, and they make you look like a quivering mass of ignorance up on the stand. That's you know So it was always very important that, and it had to be reflected in your writing, and in the team meetings that we had and the trainings that, you know, I was a non-licensed clinical social worker. I'm not a PhD psychologist. You know what I mean? And so that was how we did things. And again, my heart goes out to that particular situation. It was a very painful situation for everyone involved. But it gives me pause to consider having these strikes against me from whatever, and having those videos, excuse me, those coffee burps, having those videos removed because it was deemed medical misinformation. Really? Now, there is context, what appeared to be. And that was another one. What seemed to be, what appeared to be. And that was a very common, but you would have to back it up. Um, for example, Joe, a client, let's just say Joe. Joe, a client, appeared to be angry based on his physical posture, the expression on his face, his stance, and so you would always have to follow it up with why or how you came to that conclusion that he seemed to be angry. Why was Joe angry, or why did you think that Joe was angry? Because of X, Y, and Z. It was no joke, man. Again, you never wanted to be called up on the stand, and fortunately, I never had to. But I know other people that did in my reality. Like, oh man, and inevitably, for one reason or another, they would end up either quitting or being fired because their documentation or the way that they were expressing reflected poorly on the facility or was not accurate, whatever, and it was no joke, man. It was no joke. So when I share something, when I share an experience that I feel might be relevant, um, I perceive it from that point of view, and that's how I attempt uh, wholeheartedly to express what I saw, what I heard, what appeared to be happening, and it seems that doesn't matter. I know what I saw. I know what I heard, and I still have those strikes against me. Um, Apparently, the truth is something that's not uh, welcomed into this narrative. Uh, but I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna stop. I may take, pauses in between periods of where I feel like sharing and I don't feel like sharing, or I'm going to do a video or not do a video. Um, but I simply want offer to all of us. It's who's Scott, and it just I'm not going to say it bothered me, but it was like, wow, they simply don't care, or they don't want that information. They don't want the truth. They want their narrative, from their point of view within their context. You see what I'm saying? no opposing views because and if this one gets strike too, it does. Um, but I do find it interesting that I have that background. It's something that I use in my daily life at work now. Even in the position that I'm in now, I'm no longer in direct care, but that kind of mindset, what I hear, what I see, those are undeniable things. Um, but apparently, it doesn't matter. I don't know. Um, but anyway, off that topic. So when I offer something, I am doing that from a point of my own integrity. It's not now or has it ever been my intention to yell fire in a movie theater. This is what I saw, this is what I heard, and this is damn sure what it felt like because of X, Y, and Z. Oh boy. Oh boy. And I had one of those Facebook attacks from I've been debating whether or not, because every interaction that I've had with this particular individual via Facebook, it's always an argument. It's always, you know, um, they're from their perspective, and that's their choice, and I'm cool with that. I love free will. They're very politically minded. Um, uh, they watch the news, and they are in that mindset. They believe that the news is completely honest and forthcoming, and this is how we should live our lives. And um, every time, every time there's an interaction between us two, um, I'm simply pointing out things that I feel, and you shouldn't feel that way because. And the most recent argument was about people in healthcare. I am in a healthcare setting. I may not be a direct care person, but I am around residents, patients, nurses, doctors all day long. All day long. I work in a healthcare facility. And he was making some rather, from my point of view, he was taking things out of context. I know what he does for a living, and it ain't healthcare. He may have been to an emergency room a time or two, but he's not in healthcare. And he made he posted some really ignorant memes and made some really ignorant comments about what his perceptions were of healthcare facilities. And when I say ignorant perceptions, I mean this guy ignorant in the truest form of the word ignorant. I don't know, but just latching on to this idea of what making reference to if basically if you're not inclined to do whatever, by all means sign up to go do morgue detail for all the people who are allegedly dying, and don't wear PPE. And it's like, dude, I have my own beliefs about what's going on, and I wear fucking PPE, man. It's not just for my safety, it's for the safety of residents, patients, coworkers. If I have a cold, I stay home. It's common sense, man. It's common sense. Oh boy. I don't know how this is going to turn out, man, because there is a lot of there's a lot going on. And one thing that I know is here I am sitting before you, and so far I have made it this far in my life quite successfully. They haven't killed me yet. But if I have to leave the situation for one reason or another, because there's a lot of pressure, and it's not from the employer, it's from the state and the government and who and you know whatever. But I had an anxiety attack. It last I don't know. It was like like 15 minutes long, and I was like, oh shit, what's gonna happen if MANDATE stuff comes down and healthcare workers are FORCED to either do this or we can't keep you. And it's not it's not the employer, it's the pressure being put on healthcare facilities by the state. And I'm very fortunate that I have some really awesome friends who maybe they do or maybe they don't share um, my beliefs, but we support one another. You know, we support one another. It's called not being an asshole, not being a twat. You make the best choice for your life. I'm going to make the best choice for my life, and we're still going to be friends. It's great, man. It's great. Free will, man. Free will. But there's some friends that have been, one in particular, and she's been wonderful. She sent me this because she knew the things that I was experiencing, um, and collectively experiencing with the people that I'm surrounded by. They're trying to perpetuate a fear narrative that if you don't do what we tell you, you're not going to be allowed to work in your field. And it was wonderful for my morale when this particular friend, hey Roots, when this particular friend showed me some current protests of healthcare workers in all capacities. Healthcare workers are anybody who works in a hospital, a nursing home, a care facility, a doctor's office, whatever, right? And there was all these healthcare workers who were protesting. Some of them had been, some of them hadn't been. They were all protesting together because they knew just how messed up it is for the government to take control over your physical body. We are making that connection, are we not? That is, the government is forcing this idea, uh, and they're using the media to perpetuate this. Here's a good one, right? Here's a good one. I have an app on my phone for the Weather Channel. Weather is very important doing what I do because a lot of my work is outside and I need to know what the weather is. So I have the Weather Channel app. And with all this stuff going on more recently, I didn't notice it over the last year and a half, but over the last month or two, the Weather Channel is posting news. News. I don't want news alerts. I unplugged back in 2001. I don't want news popping up. I don't want news alerts. I don't want somebody telling me how whatever. I look at the world I live in and I interact with everybody and I see, yeah. And you know what? Everybody's getting along pretty well. There are some frightened people out there who are really mucking things up. And that's disheartening. But for the most part, you know, people are getting along. You know, there's certain people who are for perpetuating the narrative that we see on in the news and the mainstream and the government. And I understand and I feel for them. They're fearful. And I know what that feels like. And that's no place to live, in a place of fear. Anyway, we'll see if this one gets a strike. We'll see if this one gets removed. I have noticed that there's been a lot of weird stuff going on with my channel. Um, really weird stuff. I think they refer to it as shadow banning. And all that implies, it was like, yeah, I'm not getting notices for people I'm subscribed to, people that are subscribed to my channel. It's a small channel. My channel is very small. Um, but I believe in quality, not quantity. People not being notified, or I'm not being notified. My numbers are not zero. um, it is what it is, and maybe the time for this, sharing in a public way is going to go the way of the dodo. But while I still have a voice, I'm going to use it. And there was a meme that really meant something to me, and it's the meme is, I always thought somebody should do something about that figuratively, whatever that is. I always thought somebody should do something about that. And then I realized I am somebody. And there are just some things I can't bend over and take it up the tailpipe and keep my mouth shut. When I see injustice, whew, if you had told me 10 years ago that I'd be thinking and feeling and behaving this way, I would have argued with you, but I like where my life is. And I love the friends that I'm allowed to participate in their lives. And there's some amazing quantity of birthdays going on. Oh my goodness. So happy birthday, everybody. Literally too many to name. Here in the United States, across the pond, here, there, and everywhere. Wow, dude. Wow, so many birthdays. So many birthdays. It's amazing. So, with that, peace that surpasses all understanding. I hope there was something that we could glean from this. And by all means, share. I'll leave my email in the description box. And enjoy a peace today that surpasses your own understanding. I love you very much.